Vice President Joe Biden back in our spotlight now. The interview we taped earlier tonight is his first since the publication of Bob Woodward's new book, Obama's Wars, which details Biden's role in shaping the Obama war policy. Mr. Vice President, in Bob Woodward's new book, Obama's Wars, you argue against the troop increase that the president ended up going with, argued for a different strategy than what the president settled on. What would the situation in Afghanistan look like today if we had gone with the Obama strategy, the Biden strategy?
Well, look, Barack Obama's president of the United States. I told him I would give him my unvarnished opinion and back it up with the facts as I saw them. The president had the most thoroughgoing review. The American people should read Bob Woodward's book, because at the end of the book they're going to see a president who was a leader, a president who approached problems in an analytical way and made sound decisions that everyone signed on to, including Joe Biden. And the strategy the president put in place, I think, is the best strategy that we have in play. We have it in place now. We should pursue it. And Lawrence, it's only this August, the end of August, that all the troops have been in place and the civilian piece, and now we're in the process of implementing it. And there's been a lot of positive things that have happened so far. We've made great strides against al-Qaeda. We've cut into the leadership of the Taliban. We're training Afghan national security forces, which is very difficult. There's a lot of very difficult problems ahead, but I think the president came up with a strategy that is the best strategy for victory. And remember why we're there. We're there to degrade, and ultimately defeat al-Qaeda and sustain the Afghan government while they build up their physical capacity to resist the insurgency that exists, and they can operate under their Constitution. That's the reason we're there, and the president came up, I think, with the best plan to do that.
Have you spoken to Richard Holbrooke since the book has come out?
I haven't, but, you know, I know that widely published partial quote from Bob's book about what I said about Dick Holbrooke. Look, it will not shock you that in a discussion, people may or may not have talked about Dick's ego, just like they talk about my being too loquacious. But what they didn't do is they didn't say what the end of that sentence was. I told the president that he's the best man for the job. He should have the job. This is one of the most talented diplomats we've had in 30 years. He's been my friend for 35 years. I think that he is the right guy for the job, and so Richard knows that.
And just for the audience's sake, you said that he was egotistical and used a colorful phrase for it. And as far as I know, that there's 100% agreement among all those who have met Richard Holbrooke that is a reasonably accurate adjective to use.
But I do think most people would also agree with the second part of my sentence, which was that he was the right man for the job. He's one of the most talented diplomats we've had in a generation.
I want to read a sentence that the president is quoted by Bob Woodward in the book, saying, we can absorb a terrorist attack. We'll do everything we can to prevent it. But even a 9/11, even the biggest attack ever that ever took place on our soil, we absorbed it, and we are stronger. How did 9/11 make us stronger?
It made us stronger by demonstrating the entire world there's nothing that can shake our conviction of everyone under the Constitution having equal rights. We have not gone underground. We have not turned to repressive measures. We are the same open, strong, vibrant society that the rest of the world wants to emulate. And so that's the reason they took the shot at us. They took the shot at us to try to prove to the world that we weren't who we advertised ourselves to be. And we are. And the rest of the world's looked at that. And they've looked at the election of Barack Obama and seen that the American people mean what they say. We do think all people are created equal. The rest of the world and the Islamic world is figuring out we have mosques in Los Angeles bigger than mosques in most countries in the Arab world. We are a society that reaches out, embraces people, and in fact is stronger because of it. That's what I think the president meant by saying we're stronger for it. They tried to deal us a body blow, and it was horrible terrible for the 3,000 people and that lost loved ones, and my heart goes out to them. But the fact of the matter is, in terms of our national stability, our economic power and strength, our military capacity, it was a glancing blow.
And, Mr. Vice President, Hamid Karzai is presented in the book as being a diagnosed manic depressive. General Petraeus refers to him in one meeting as running basically a criminal syndicate in his government. Ambassador Eikenberry is quoted as telling you that he's off his meds. How can we have a successful exit strategy, as the Obama plan calls for, in July of 2011, if the exit involves leaving Afghanistan to the whims of Hamid Karzai?
Hamid Karzai is long since then decided that his interest and the interest of his country lie in cooperating with us and sort of righting his ship. The fact of the matter is that whether it's corruption or there's training of Afghan security forces or integration of and reconciliation with the Taliban, President Karzai is in a position now that, faced with an incredibly difficult circumstance, I believe that he is fully capable of stepping up to the plate and acting responsibly. It's a very difficult position he's in, but he must step up to the plate. We must train an Afghan national security force, and he must take ownership of it. He must deal with the most virulent types of corruption, those types that in fact cause populations, villages, provinces to turn to the Taliban for justice instead of corrupt officials. And he must deal with the larger pieces of corruption that exist within his society. And some of it is changes we have to make. We're making changes in contracting authority. General Petraeus has set forward there's billions of dollars rolling into that country, in a country that was the fourth poorest in the world and one that didn't have much infrastructure. And so we're making changes as well to make it easier to deal with that problem. But Hamid Karzai must step up to the ball. I think he's capable of it. If he doesn't, his country will fail. If he does, it can succeed.
And finally, to the controversy that divided the Democratic leadership in the House last week, the only thing that maybe could divide them. Your friend Stephen Colbert, you and I are what Stephen Colbert calls friends of the show. You did Stephen Colbert's show recently. Stephen Colbert was then invited to testify to a House Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration last week. He did that. Speaker Pelosi supported it. She said she thought it was great. Steny Hoyer, House Majority Leader, however, said that it was an embarrassment. So, Mr. Vice President, who's right, Pelosi or Hoyer? You have to pick one.
36 years in the United States Senate and never got in the middle of a House fight among House members. I'm not going to do it now. But look, one of the things that's going on is this march on Washington that Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart are putting together. It is all done with an overwhelming dose of humor and sarcasm, and it is, I think, going to, it's designed to make, quite frankly, a mockery of the position of some of the extreme position on the other side. But I'll let the House decide its own rules. I'll pretend I'm still a senator. It's against Senate rules to comment on the conduct of events in the House.
You're off the hook, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Vice President, thank you very much for making the time for us tonight.
Well, thank you. I wish you luck in the show, and I hope you have me back. Thank you.